Duke is going to be winning the national title game in 2019. It's all scripted by the numbers, completely rigged through the practice of gematria. It is going to be Coach Mike Krzyzewski that is going to win his 6th national title as the Duke head coach. It is all scripted by the numbers. First and foremost, why is Duke going to be winning over at Minneapolis? Well, for starters, the most frequent site of victory for Coach Mike Krzyzewski is over at Minnesota. Let's start with the first scripted Final Four at Minnesota that Kentucky won. Kentucky is one of my finalists for this year. It's Kentucky that equals under 10. It's Minnesota that equals under 10 in gematria. That's why Kentucky won your scripted first national title game over at Minnesota back during the year 1951. That is for starters. In 1992, Mike Krzyzewski won the national title over at the Metrodome in Minneapolis, Minnesota. The very next Final Four at Minneapolis, Minnesota, 2001, was won by Duke. Ha! Funny! This next title game is going to be over at Minneapolis this year. Is that the case? Because Coach Krzyzewski also won twice at Indianapolis in the year 2010 as well as the year 2015. Why did Duke win at Indianapolis? That's a great question. I think the reason why... Well, first off, the reason why Duke won at the Metrodome was because Duke Blue Devils basketball equals 75. That's also the home of the Minnesota Vikings. It is Minnesota Vikings that equals 75. Team number 3 on the list to lose to Duke, Kansas Jayhawks, 6 equals 52. The Kansas Jayhawks equals 52. It's Prophecy and gematria that equals 52. Roy Williams, under 31 losses. It's championship that equals under 31. At the least, I think Duke faces North Carolina in the scripted Final Four. Now, on the North Carolina side, that's the under 31 losses. That is what to look out for. It's the Blue Devils that equals under 44 and 54. The team named the Devils is the top team out there. It's Mark of the Beast that equals 144 and 54. The last Super Bowl before the one on 2-3 was over at Minneapolis, Minnesota. Then we had the Super Bowl over at Atlanta, Georgia. National title game is going to be played on April the 8th. April the 8th, you say? Because in gematria, it's Duke versus UNC that equals 48. It's Duke versus Kentucky that equals 48. 4-8, April the 8th. So either Kentucky or North Carolina. It's W, that's the 23rd letter. You think about Jordan, number 23, winning 6 letters, whatnot. That's why I kind of really like Kentucky a lot, if you ask me. North Carolina and Duke, I think, are tied at national titles, so that's why I have to go with North Carolina against Duke. It's Minnesota that equals 38 in gematria. UNC equals 38 in gematria. Very interesting. Zion Williamson gets hurt. It's fake shoe explosion, right? It's all big, complete scripted joke, right? It's supposed to be that way. It totally is supposed to be that way. So we have the sides, Duke winning on certain sides. We have UNC and Kentucky stacking up with the day of the national title. Duke, UNC, it's UNC winning all these scripted games. It's like, Duke can remain at 5 losses the rest of the way. Duke can win its 32nd game to win the national title over at Minnesota. So that's 31 days. That's 28. That's 32 days. So including the end day, that's 33 days. You can't script any better here. It's like, North Carolina's beating Duke all these times, and then, hey, for Mike Krzyzewski's scripted sixth title, you could not script it any better if he ends up beating North Carolina. To me, the number 6 being very occultic and whatnot, and North Carolina in the national title game, it makes for a perfect script. I mean, February the 20th of 2019, shoe explosion. Okay, that equals 61 and 41 in geometry. That's not actually 50 in numerology. That's not 51. I jumped the gun there. So that's 8 days in February. That's 31 in March, and then April the 8th. 47 days until the national championship game. The only thing that I can take away from that is that there are 47 degrees in the Freemasonic compass. How about Tar Heels versus Blue Devils? For Mike Krzyzewski's scripted 6th championship in college basketball. UNC Duke rivalry. That would have to play a role in it as well. Site of the national title game. US Bank Stadium in Minneapolis. Starting off with the corporate sponsor. US Bank equals 68. Its championship that equals 68. US Bank Stadium in gematria equals 38. We already have UNC equaling 38. We have Minnesota equaling 38. This is all stacking up with Duke over UNC this year.